All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Hope all of you are enjoying this holiday season and getting ready and for whatever your plans are, and hope you have a great one here. Okay. Few things to look at in general this day, the 24th, kind of Christmas Eve. Markets will be closed early today. They will close at 1 o'clock Eastern or 11 Mountain. And generally, this day the trading activity is very light. Okay, and so it's not one of those days where you want to generally look and say, well, this stock is doing this today, so we can go after it or we have to get out of it. Today generally doesn't bring a lot of technical change into things. Okay. Now we do have some plans to make a little change on the challenge here today. It really kind of depends on if we get a little bit of a pullback into Soro or not. One of the things that we are looking at here, and let me just bring up the charts. There were a lot of chatter yesterday about Tesoro, Western Refining, Valero, all starting to break out. Okay, and Tesoro very similar to what it was a week ago. Is it ready to break out right here, right now? Maybe, maybe not. One of the things that we're looking at here is chances of a breakout are elevated considering the action in some of the other refiners and in the price of gasoline. And so what we'd like to do is we still like Boeing a lot, and the setup here on Boeing is still very nice, but we would like to pull off two contracts off of Boeing and rotate and have Boeing and Tesoro as we head into the end of the year. So the question is, do we make that trade here today? Do we make it on the 26th? The one problem with making it right here today, the options on Tesoro after yesterday's action, just a little bit elevated, okay, just a little bit elevated. But if we're able to kind of go out and get maybe these January 60s here on Tesoro for something like a $1.25, $1.30, that would make a lot of sense for us as far as getting into this Tesoro trade, and these options would pay off very big on just a small breakout for Tesoro. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We won't make that trade first thing here this morning. We'll kind of let the market settle. Generally, what'll happen on a day like today is you'll get an initial move. So far, pre-market, it's pretty flat. There's not going to be a ton of movement out there, but you tend to get a little bit initial move, a little bit of volume, and the rest of the day kind of goes flat. Fund managers kind of say, "All right, I'm done," and they kind of move on out. So it becomes a time where, hey, if there's a stock like Tesoro that we want to get in and it's down 40, 50 cents or something like that, becomes a real nice entry opportunity. Very few stocks are we looking at today and saying, well, if it does XYZ today, we can jump into it today and it's a great trade. No, we're pretty much looking at a lot of the triggers that have come in over the last week and saying, okay, you know what? Maybe we have a little pullback or a good entry point from a risk reward standpoint, and can go after it, from that standpoint. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. A lot of stuff. Boeing yesterday. Very insignificant price action. Okay, very little volume. It gapped up yesterday. Why? Well, because the market did, and it pretty much did like what most Dow stocks did yesterday, and it pretty much didn't go anywhere all day. Is this bearish action? No, not at all. If we go look at something like U.S. Steel, right? I mean, take a look at U.S. Steel Friday. And then take a look at it yesterday. This is going to be very common type action during this holiday season. Okay. Now, if you're looking to enter a brand new trade on any catalyst here today, okay, generally what you're looking for is a strong catalyst. You need some sort of news to move it, and there's a potential of that news actually garnering an overreaction. Okay, one way or another. So, Max, you bring up Tesla, right? Tesla had some good news here this morning, all right? And Tesla pre-market here is trading up about $7. Okay, so if I bring up kind of the pre-market here of Tesla, you can see yesterday 144, now trading up around 151 here. Okay, and so Tesla, some good news. You take a look, 151, pushing it back up into these little highs. Can you get a move into 160 on Tesla today? Absolutely. Why? Because there'll be light volumes and there's a positive catalyst. Okay, and when you're looking, Tesla's kind of the minority here today of having any sort of catalyst. You know, you go through some of the analyst upgrades and downgrades here today. There just aren't any. You go through the news, there's very little. We did have some economic data. Some of the mortgage applications, new mortgage applications, hit a 13-year low today. Is that bearish, bullish? You could argue both sides. We had a very strong durable goods, but nothing to really kind of be a game changer in this market. Tesla is probably the one with the most catalyst out of anything out there. And overall, with this gap up, but keep in mind with the light volume, it can fill that gap one way or the other and do so very quickly. And so if you're going to jump into something like Tesla this morning, I jump in with some sort of all or nothing trade where you're kind of, if it goes against it, no big deal. Goes your way, you're getting a nice little double or triple in regards there. Okay. A couple other things was asked about Kihu. Kihu here yesterday closed above 80, and I mentioned to you earlier that I had written on my board, Kihu closes above 80 or pushes above 80, it's a buy. If you look at this whole group, the Sina, the Sohu, the Baidu, they're all kind of in this similar position overall. Kihu's still my favorite of the group, but all of them kind of showing a lot of breakout potential overall as we head into the end of the year. Boeing this morning is set to gap up a little bit, about 10 cents. We'll kind of see where that opens. I don't expect anything that Boeing does today to be significant one way or the other. Meaning if Boeing's up to $2.50, even $3 today, yeah, would it be nice? Sure. Is it going to be overly significant? No, not necessarily. Okay. If Boeing does decide to move below 135, I'd be very concerned with that. But at the same time, we'll kind of take it as it comes. Look at some of the volumes that come in today. If we do see heavy block orders coming into Boeing and it pushing below 135, we will potentially look to take it off. Chesapeake, okay, Chesapeake came off of its highs yesterday by about 25 cents. Really not bearish action at all on Chesapeake. Okay, really not nothing bearish here. We'll still look for it to ride in the upper Bollinger Band, look to ride the 7, but volumes are going to be fairly light here. Okay. If we kind of look, kind of across the board here, one of the big gap ups today is going to be Micron. Okay. Now, Micron has basically been pulling back as they're building another facility, or Hynix, one of their competitors, is building another DRAM facility. Okay. One of the reasons Micron has been going up is because of their old facility, or Hynix's old facility catching on fire, and that has given Micron a lot of market share. But from a technical standpoint, yeah, even though Micron's gapping up 20 cents, you're still in kind of this no man's territory. If you go look at AMD, there was actually a analyst report out here today about how AMD is starting to break in and add a little bit of market share. Is it a huge catalyst? No. We don't have a lot of huge catalysts. Is it a small catalyst here for AMD? Yes. Tesla, AMD, these are two that are very interesting here this morning. As far as having a little bit of catalyst to move on. Okay. Cricket, no. USK will really much trading at all today in the big picture. No, there we'll probably see a few stocks that a fund manager or two or a hedge fund decide to rush after and make some sort of big move. But in general, past history, we don't get a lot of things happening. Here on a day like today, and Market Bell just opened, and kind of just look across the board here. Boeing really not trading yet. Chesapeake up about 5 cents. Tesoro down 16. Tesoro down a little bit isn't a bearish thing. Okay. Bank of America, Goldman, China Mobile, everything pretty much flat as you kind of go across the board. You see a few things up a couple pennies, a few things down a couple pennies, and that's probably what today is going to be like. Okay, Twitter is one that is getting a big move here off of yesterday's action. Okay, Twitter here. You can kind of see very nice breakout into a new high yesterday, getting nice follow through here today. This is kind of a story in and of itself here. Okay. You can see here, Boeing opening up pretty flat, very insignificant. Chesapeake very flat. No news, no catalyst, nothing really here at all today. One of the things we are looking for, I'd love to see Tesoro potentially pull back, 30, 40 cents, maybe even back into about 57 and a half. If we get that, where we get a little bit of kind of sympathy sell here on Tesoro back into the 57 and a half area, we'll look at pulling 2 contracts of Boeing off and then taking that with our cash and adding it into Tesoro and having Boeing and Tesoro bullish positions going on for the challenge. And so we'll see if we kind of get that here this morning. Obviously, we won't do that right away as things are going to open up extra slow today. Joe, FedEx. So what am I looking for FedEx? To me, FedEx here is in a beautiful position. Nice breakout yesterday, or nice breakout on options expiration on Friday. A little bit of a pullback yesterday. Today, no real action just yet. Let me pull it up here. It's not even really open. The stock's not even really open here. With FedEx and UPS, okay, both in these kind of breakout modes, it's kind of one of those things where over the coming week, you can kind of look at any small dip in them on low volume as a buy opportunity. Okay, these aren't things that I say, there's going to be major technical change. UPS, would it be a gift if it came back down to 103? Yes. 103 was the breakout mark here for UPS. They came back down, retested 103, the lower Bollinger Band, what was resistance, now becoming support. 103 on UPS would be a very nice buy opportunity. For FedEx, 141 is kind of that same area. 141, the breakout. Okay, if we get a pullback into 141, that would be a really nice kind of buy opportunity. AK, you just put a half position on FedEx. I can't argue it. It's got a little bit of a pullback off of its highs, but there's some really nice support underneath these. And so that's kind of what I'd be looking for there with FedEx and UPS. Are they going to get back that far? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, it's one of those things where if they get there, I'd be a little more interested. NCR here, Max, not a stock I really follow. He's taken a beating here. Light volumes in general, or lighter volumes in general. Coming off a bottom, there is some pretty decent volume building on this move, but this is something where for me, I want to wait. I want to see higher lows start to build in, that it's ready to build some sort of upward trend on it. Johnson and Johnson, yeah, Johnson and Johnson. This is a very interesting stock, and very similar to Bank of America in my book, where we got the surge on the Fed, right, and it pushed it above the 7. Now we've kind of seen 4 or 5 days just flat, and the 7 kind of playing catch up. The stock Johnson and Johnson and Bank of America, they're not pulling back to the 7, but as they consolidate a little bit, the 7's kind of playing catch up in a very similar way to back here in October. Okay, Johnson and Johnson surges, goes flat for a little while. Look back here in June. In fact, let me zoom this in here for you. Look back here in June, and you can kind of see this big surge here in Johnson and Johnson. And what does it do for about a week? It just goes flat as it pushes kind of the 7 play catch up, and then it's ready to resume its upward trend. It's nothing magical about the 7. It's just, okay, these stocks have surged. They're now consolidating. We're not seeing any major sell, and generally this type of consolidation you see a move higher. What would I want to see? I'd want to see Johnson and Johnson start to break back above yesterday's highs. Okay, the 92.80 area starts to get above there. Would be a sign it's ready to move, and that's really what you're looking for. Okay, is it ready to move overall? Okay. Um, yeah, Halliburton. Halliburton here yesterday was pretty much opened higher and bled the entire day on light volume. Still holding on to the 50 level. I mentioned on Friday. I pulled off mine. Do I think Halliburton can get to 52? I do. I think there's a good chance Halliburton gets to 52. Is it my favorite setup out there? No. I would rather chase Johnson and Johnson, but Halliburton to 52, as long as it holds 50, chances to 52 are still very high. Okay. Yeah, Cricket, Disney. Disney is one of those that has been, I'll grant you, a little frustrating. Simply because if you take a look here, it broke out above 66. And, this very bullish head and shoulders, cup and handle, whatever you want to call it, very bullish chart pattern. And it breaks out here in October. And something we rarely see. It breaks out on very, very light volume. And any of these breakouts that happen on light volume, they tend to be a little nervy. You can see strong reversals. Well, Disney did come back and retest 66 and did hit some volume when it retested, so that was strong for it. And it's kind of just continued higher. It's been choppy. It's been a little bit of choppiness, but this is a legit move here for Disney. My price target here on Disney from this price pattern here, from this chart pattern, is 72. Okay, so we've hit 72. We're continuing to go above it. It's a little tough for me to want to be in the trade overall, but Disney, even from a fundamental standpoint, could still push up into the $80 area. If you're in Disney and you're riding Disney, hey, as long as it closes in that upper band, there's nothing to worry about. It had a reversal on options expiration, right, and has now wiped that out. So that's another very good sign here for Disney to keep going up. Okay. Yeah, Lulu here. AK, you got a lottery here on Lulu? All right, good deal. Good deal. Bristol Myers, okay. Bristol Myers overall here, nice bullish signal. Last week has pulled back a little bit since, kind of back towards the 7. This is kind of one of those cases where, does trigger a bullish signal, but so far above the 7, does it pull back? This isn't a bearish pullback overall for BMY, but if we were to start to break the highs from this kind of bullish Marubozu, kind of this 52 and a half area, I'd be concerned. But overall, I'd really be looking more at Bristol Myers for some sort of upside action. If it were to get some sort of bullish engulfing come in, let's say let's say on Thursday or Friday, and use that more as kind of an entry opportunity. Merlin, I'm not sure if you're in BMY now or not. Overall, if I were in BMY, I wouldn't be getting out, but it's one of those trades that can be a little difficult from a managed standpoint. And this is where you kind of say, well, you put your line in the sand. How far are you willing to let it bleed to go down? Chances are it does go up, but it's the market. It could continue to bleed and continue to go down. Where's your line in the sand there? Okay. Yeah, Google here. Google here down $6, right? Is this significant? No. And this is one of the things about trading something like Google. It's down 0.5% on a day that's very insignificant, still in the upper band. Is it overbought a little bit? Yes. It's a little bit overbought, but at the same time, it's not in a kind of a crash position. Can it get back to 1100 and peel back to 1100? Absolutely. And that's kind of your risk. So really, if you're looking at Google, it's not a matter whether you should stay in or not. Okay, it is breaking the 7 hour. It does have a little bit more of a chance of going down, but you could argue that today the action's very insignificant. You have good volumes on this up build, so it's more not a matter of should you stay in, it's where's your line in the sand. Where do you say, you know what, if Google pulls back, enough is enough. I don't want to deal with it anymore. Um, for me, I'd have a hard time getting out of Google right here. But if it does start to break something like 1108, I'd get a little bit more nervous in the real short term. Okay, in the real short term, Google historically, pulls back at the end of the year, kind of the last day of the year, but there's just nothing bearish here. There's nothing bearish. See Google go up another 20, $30 in the coming week would not be too much of a surprise at all. Okay. Look, Boeing up about 30 cents here. Very insignificant. Not a lot of orders coming in there. Chesapeake down about 7 cents. There's no significance here, to this action. Okay. IBM. This is a very interesting one, NDC, and this is one that as I look at IBM, this tells me that the market is poising or is poised to be very bullish in January. Okay, they're starting to buy some of the dogs, some of the laggards here early in regards to IBM. Would I like to see how IBM reacts to its first dip? Absolutely. A low volume dip that makes a higher low here on IBM would be very nice as far as from an entry point. If you're in IBM, there's really not much of a reason to get out here. There's just absolutely no reason to be getting out as it continues to close in that upper band there. Okay. Yeah, X is on a tear. Yeah, exactly. John had mentioned this yesterday morning as far as a great entry point. U.S. Steel, AKS continues to tear higher. I've had several emails regarding AKS. I mean, AKS has $8 written all over it. That it wants to go to 8. Nucor's been a little bit of a laggard, but still, I mean, you're looking at a very bullish chart. Nucor had some bad news. Sold off down to the lower band and ripped back higher. This is an extremely bullish chart here on Nucor. Just an extremely bullish chart, and that whole sector, the CL or the Nucor, the even you get into the iron ore with the CLF, the action on it is extremely bullish. Okay, Tesoro pullback, right? As we looked at this yesterday into the close, and Carl and I were talking about it. Carl, John, and I were talking about it. We were talking about pulling 2 Boeing contracts off and getting into Tesoro, and I finally kind of looked at Carl. I just said, Carl, gut feel, we need to wait with Tesoro till tomorrow morning, see what type of sympathy pullback we get. Right now, would I like to see it get back into the 57.5, 57 area? Yes, that would be ideal. I don't think this action is bearish, but it can be a little exaggerated given the light trading of the day. Is Tesoro ready to move right here, right now? Maybe not. Okay, maybe not, but I do think there's nothing bearish about today's action. Tesoro, if you've never been in Tesoro before, a $2 move one way or the other, you just look at past history. That the moves can be pretty intense in the short term as it goes. What is nice about this pullback on Tesoro? The thing that's really nice here is it finally, getting in yesterday, and I believe John mentioned this on chat yesterday, is a little bit anticipatory as far as anticipating the breakout just a little bit, okay? But now that it's pulling back off this 58.5 level, that next move above 58.5 is confirmation that it is ready to go. That it is absolutely ready to go there. Okay. Bed Bath & Beyond, absolutely phenomenal breakout. Some good volumes built into options expiration last week. And one of the things that you can tend to see is stocks that consolidate for this long, they tend to break out after an options expiration. The price is then ready to move. This is a phenomenal breakout here. You're looking at about an $82 price target here on Bed Bath & Beyond. Okay. GM, any weakness? I mean, GM here is one of those things. The uptrend is strong. Yesterday's up was on light volume. Yes, is it bullish overall? Sure. Is today's action really meaningful or significant? Not necessarily. So really tough to judge something like GM, this early in the morning. You'll notice this chart's very similar to Tesoro, with this little light volume pullback, first thing here, first thing this morning. If GM were to start to break 40, we could then look at it from a bearish light. But as long as GM holds on to 40, it's still in a very bullish uptrend. I didn't see any news on GM this morning. I know durables were strong, and sometimes that can affect it, but I didn't see really any news in that group. The action on GM, or the little pullback on GM, may be more of a Tesla effect. Okay, Tesla's making a nice surge here this morning. All right, we can pop out of GM and let's go chase Tesla again. There might be a little bit of rotation there. Okay. Yeah, Apple, big surge yesterday, right? China Mobile deal happens, big surge. For me, from a technical standpoint, this is one where Apple too far too fast in the short term. I would love to see Johnson & Johnson like action on Apple, where Johnson & Johnson makes the big surge, a little too much, a little too fast, now consolidating. Now you have a reference point. Now if you're getting into Johnson & Johnson, you have a reference point for a stop, but you have a good risk-reward scenario. With Apple, that's the trouble I have, is where's my risk-reward scenario? I like Apple here at 569, 571, but I also like it at 560. I like it at 555. So if I were to pop in right here, any sort of pullback, I'm still liking it, makes it very difficult to get out. So ideally, with the contracting bands on Apple, ideally, I get something back into the kind of the middle Bollinger Band on the hourly chart and could use that to enter. Okay, but Apple, basically a news event yesterday, it creates a fundamental move, buying coming in. For me, from a technical standpoint, I'd like to see a little bit more consolidation before jumping in there. Yeah, Baidu acting a little bit weak here today, breaking back below the 7. Not a lot of volume on it. Sohu is kind of the opposite. Sina here, nothing really going on. Kihu flat. So in general, you're not seeing Baidu break down with others, okay? But the action on Baidu is a little bit a little bit weaker here. Look, I do believe Baidu continues to go higher, but to go back to 164, 162, it's a plausible scenario, especially as it continues to be kind of in this consolidation phase overall. Okay. I'm just kind of looking down across the board. Uh, the Dow, the diamonds, the Dow 30 underperformed strongly yesterday, which, if you were holding a Dow stock like Boeing, was disappointing, but it was still very bullish for the markets overall. Okay. Um, Boeing here up about 40 cents this morning. Nothing really significant. I mean, and you can tell nothing really going on major with Boeing. The spread on it's very still kind of wide. If you look at, you just pull up the minute chart here, you do have a little bit of volume coming into Boeing, a little bit kind of normal volume for a morning coming into Boeing. It's not incredibly light, so that's pretty good here. If we look something like Chesapeake down about 12 cents here this morning, and you kind of look at the volumes, look at the volumes yesterday on a minute by minute basis, and then take a look at the volumes right now. Much lighter volumes than what you typically will see on any given morning. So any significance in the action today? No. Uh, you know, Same with many of the other things that are out there. Okay. Yeah, Cricket, the movement today on anything doesn't really mean a lot. Exactly. It means very, very, very little. Um, you need a catalyst for it to mean something. Tesla's one of the few that has a catalyst. AMD today is one of the few that has a catalyst. Anything else really doesn't. Hewlett Packard, a little bit of a catalyst, but it's not really reacting bullishly. Hewlett Packard is talking about kind of getting back into the smartphone world, the mobile world. They're talking about making not tablets, but bigger versions of phones. So kind of trying to compete in the 6 and 7 inch range. Um, you know, I'm not a huge fan of the Hewlett Packard as a company, but the price action here in Hewlett Packard has been extremely bullish. Uh, to see this push up into the $32, $35 area early next year would not be too much of a surprise here. Okay. Yeah, JDSU, Darren. Yeah, JDSU had some big volume on options expiration on Friday. Some huge volumes came into this on that options expiration, and it's continuing to go up here at this point. Trend rider bull signal. Chances are it's going to kind of come back up into this gap area, into this 14 area. So that's pretty significant there. Yeah, Jake, Vale. Vale's not been acting like some of the other steel stocks. Okay, they've had a little bit more of a drag on them. If you look at Vale kind of longer term, from a weekly standpoint, you're still dealing with lower highs and lower lows. I'd love to see Vale turn here around this 14 area and really start to break back above the 7 week moving average. At that point, when Vale finally starts to trade back above the 7 week moving average, I'm willing to look at it from an entry from a daily standpoint and say, you know what, I can trust this entry. But right here, could you buy Vale, use 14 and a half as a stop? Yes, you could. But the odds are going to be much more in your favor if Vale is able to start breaking above 15 and a half in a trend rider bull and say, okay, Vale's really ready to move. Because you get some good longer term action to combine with the short term action there, Jake, on Vale. Okay. We will see. Will we see before the end of the year more volatility caused by tax consideration? Richard, really good question, and it's something that is always talked about into the end of the year. Um, because do you want to cash out of something to pay the tax this year? Do you want to hold it into next year so you don't have to pay the tax till 2014? Generally, it's a bigger deal when there's a big threat of tax laws changing significantly. Do we have the threat of tax law changing? We do. We do have some things that will be happening next year that could cause that, but it's not something where I'm looking at a position and saying, okay, the tax is going to affect that. I don't expect the volatility to increase tremendously simply for that fact. Most of that tends to be priced in as far as the tax move that can happen there. Okay. What about CLIR? Looks like a pump stock initially, but it's just gone up over the past week. Wow. Yeah, I agree with the NDC about a kind of a pumped, but this much volume on a consistent day-to-day basis makes me think there's something fundamental here. Okay, there's something fundamental going on. This isn't a company I'm familiar with. Let me pull it up real quick, see if I can just see something in the headline. Because you're talking about a company that doesn't even make money. So you had earnings report. There's got to be something. Yeah, there's nothing here on the headlines that's giving me anything. But there's this is more than a pump and dump, or it's kind of creating more action that would suggest to me there's something deeper going on here than some sort of kind of pump and dump scheme with CLIR. I could be wrong, but I'll go take a look at that a little bit more here today. Okay. Yeah, Walmart, and I've kind of talked about Walmart a little bit last week. I'm not a huge fan of being a buyer or a seller into something like Walmart or even into something like Target. I know Target's had a swirl of bad news. These are a little bit, could they have moves into the end of the year? Sure. If you put a gun to my head and force me to trade Walmart, I'd rather buy calls than puts on it. But I'd rather if I'm playing the retailers, I'd rather play in something like Amazon. Overall, I'd rather be a buyer of Amazon than Walmart. But Amazon at 400, does take some risk here. Okay. Um, Wick, really interesting comment. Triple D actually had some good news this morning. Is trading lower, and was in the pre-market. Is this action bearish? Not necessarily, but it kind of highlights the nature of Triple D, where it can go from 80 to 90 in 3 days and have a $3 pullback. I mean, from a technical standpoint, that's rather insignificant overall. Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, look, I'll let that go. Max, did Triple D get downgraded after some of that news today? Okay, okay. Yeah, I saw Triple D somewhere, real early this morning, and they had a downgrade after that. Very interesting. Very interesting. Look, to me, Triple D, flip a coin. Yeah, flip a coin. YRCW has been a short squeeze deluxe. This has kind of been the epitome of a short squeeze here, where basically you get a stock that's being shorted pricing. The shorts are kind of almost betting on bankruptcy here. Then you get a change. You get a shift. Some of the Team Master stuff here, and now you get a short squeeze. Okay, a short squeeze is a giant game of chicken. Last one, you can jump on board and you'll be fine, but last one off gets left holding the bag. And a lot of times these short squeezes can have strong sells when they finally exhaust. A sign that a short squeeze is exhausted is a high volume exhaustion day where you have a gap up and heavy volume where the shorts are just, enough is enough. They're buying back in. Yesterday, this is a sign, hey, maybe the shorts are done. Okay, maybe the shorts are done. Would I short this? No. To me, this is one of those, okay, yeah, you sit back and you watch. Do you get a real nice entry if, can you short it if YRCW breaks below 16? Yes. but you're really it's a coin flip. You're not playing anything that you're playing news. You're playing short squeezes. This isn't going to be a technical type of a trade here. Okay. Yeah, Yum. Oh, or excuse me, GTN. I missed GTN. GTN, great television. Not a stock I follow. Very strong uptrend, lighter volume trade. Continues to just kind of go up and up and up. This is one where you're playing the trend. You're not really playing the technicals. With this, take a look. This is the kind of stock where you draw a line on the trend, right? You have the trend. Now the trend is steepening. Okay, so you draw your line on the steepening trend. It's as simple as when this trend breaks, you pop off. You hop off. You hop off the train. As long as this trend continues, or maybe even steepens again, you stay on board. Okay, you stay on board, and little ups, little downs shouldn't deter you from that trend. Yum. This is kind of a play on China, okay, and you'll notice Yum pulled back as the FXI in the Chinese ETF pulled back. It's been pushing back a little bit higher here. It's not in a place where I would trust it. You do have, if I kind of annotate here, just this rally. It has retraced back. The danger here with Yum, okay, the danger with Yum is an ABC-like correction where you get the A leg lower, which we had, 50% retracement. You get a light volume B leg up, then you get a C leg down to the full retracement down here to 70. I'd be much more interested in buying Yum around 70 than I am to chase it around 74. This to me would be more normalized action to be able to pick it up somewhere in that area. Okay. We'll go take a look here at Kellogg. Boeing, again, nothing significant happening. Chesapeake, nothing significant happening. We are looking to potentially pull a couple contracts off of Boeing and get into Tesoro. We will look to do that here this morning, or a little bit later here, probably in another hour or so. Overall, Kellogg's here. This has been one that had a nice little move off the bottom here in October. It's continued to just kind of bleed lower. There's not been really a buying catalyst overall. The lows continue to get lower, the highs continue to get lower, but this is a very bullish type of consolidation pattern. Generally resolves itself to the upside. Okay. This type of pattern, a lot of times a trend rider bull signal will say, okay, it's ready to move. Other than that, you're constantly trying to pick a bottom, right? So you're looking at Kellogg's back here early December. You say, well, I can buy it here at 61, use 60 and a half as a stop. Well, now it breaks 60 and a half. Well, you could say you could buy it here, use 60 as a stop. Okay, fine. If it breaks 60, you'll probably get a setup where you can buy it around 59 and a half, using 59 as a stop. Just how much more does this pattern last in general? I am hesitant when it comes to these consumer staple stocks. I have to admit, I'm hesitant overall with them. Bonds here, interest rates, they got a big pop here Friday where interest rates fell, but they've been rising ever since. I'd rather go after Johnson & Johnson in the consumer staple world than I would an underperformer like Kellogg's. You could get a rotation into Kellogg's, as it's kind of been a laggard this year. You could get a rotation into January, but I'd need to see it kind of trigger a trend rider bull signal for me to feel comfortable with Kellogg's. Richard, you're thinking of shorting it? Here's my problem with shorting it, okay? And obviously Kellogg's is one that, the way I'm talking, I would probably stay away from. But here's your danger in shorting it, okay? Look at the pops on Kellogg's through this. These pops have been pretty aggressive. where it's gone from 60 to 62 and a half in a matter of a week. Okay, where it's had a 5% pop on it. We had this real pop here in November. Okay, so what you have to ask yourself is, if it does make one of those pops, are you still a fan of shorting it? Are you still a fan if it kind of pops up into 61 and a half? Where's your stop point? Can you short it using 61? Yes, and if I had to short it, I would use 61 as my line in the sand. But that's kind of the question you have to kind of bring into play there. Okay. Cricket, at your last union meeting, going out of business for YRCW is very much in the cards. Interesting. In cricket, you probably know a lot more about that situation than I do. Let me go pull up the chart or the options here on YRCW. Um, wow. Uh, why I say wow? The implied volatility on this 150%. It's huge, right? It tells you that they're expecting a lot of movement in YRCW as we go forward. Okay. Um, Man, just for the January 30 calls, I mean, there's still a lot of premium in these way out. If I were going to play YRCW, I'd take a little bit of money. I'd probably go buy some January 10 puts and hope they go bankrupt. But, even bankruptcy doesn't necessarily cause your puts to pay off. Bankruptcy, there could still be a resolution where the you know, stock is kind of distributed or put at a certain level. This is really a crapshoot. The options are pricing that out. You have a big battle with the short sellers out there. And the short sellers recently have basically been telling you they don't want anything more to do with it. Yeah, Max, Home Depot. This is a beautiful chart. This is one of the best charts in the market. Okay, in my opinion, one of the best charts in the market with Home Depot. Home Depot recently, it's consolidated after their latest earnings. You can argue that Home Depot, from a fundamental standpoint, is a little bit expensive, but unlike Starbucks, Home Depot has a lot more growth in it. Okay, the growth here in Home Depot has been really strong. Home Depot is one of those stocks where, you know, in a bull market, you'll see stocks break 80 and go to 100, and a lot of stocks that push up to 100 go to 120. Home Depot is one of those that, if the bull market continues into 2014, through the first half of 2014, to see Home Depot move into the 120 area and be one of the top performers on the Dow, I would expect it to do that. Okay. And one of the things, we've seen Lowe's outperform Home Depot for most of the year, but as both Home Depot and Lowe's recently reported earnings, that Home Depot's earnings was better than Lowe's, in my opinion. And we are starting to see more rotation of money into Home Depot, where Home Depot is actually outperforming Lowe's. I like Home Depot here a lot, from a technical and a fundamental standpoint. Okay. Yeah, Wick. Let's see here. Let's see if my Street Insider has the triple D here. Um, yeah, this was the early news today, where Cancord raised the price target on triple D to 95. That was the first news on it this morning. Let's see. Then later on, we get. Sorry, just seeing if it's in here. Not seeing it. I'm missing it here. Oh, they're just talking about after a multi-day rally. I'll go find that for you, and Wick, and I'll put that out here after I get on video or get off video. Alrighty. Let me quick go through these chats here. Max, AK, love it. Nice job, Darren. Yeah, Vips, Richard. Vips isn't something or excuse me, let me type this incorrectly. This here, it's not something I follow a lot, and I know you've kind of brought it up here before. The trend continues to be very bullish. This is very bullish action. It is low volume, consolidating here above 80. Bull markets, these stocks that break 80 tend to go to 100. It's had its break of 80. It's had its consolidation. It now has its re-break of 80. To go to 100, would not be hard to imagine at all there. Okay, not be difficult to imagine at all. Yeah, Microsoft having a little bit of uptick here off of the bottom. You're always worried about something like this. How far does it go? Does it retrace and then have another leg lower? For me, Microsoft's not really in a great position right here, um, but I can see Microsoft playing in the $40 range early next year. Okay. Alrighty, well, thanks for hopping on. For now, with Boeing and CHK, no changes. Okay, no changes here this morning. Not significant action. The change we're looking at making is pulling two contracts off of Boeing and buying some Tesoro with that. Okay, we may do it today. One of the things that I'm looking at in regards to making that change is where is Tesoro? Okay, if Tesoro can pull back into kind of this 57 area today, I'd be a little bit more excited about making that change today. If not, I'd rather almost wait till Thursday and either a break above 58 and a half on Tesoro or a pullback towards about 57 and make that change. The reason I'm not overly anxious to make that change right here, right now, is because if I compare Boeing and Tesoro, Boeing's chart is much more bullish overall. Boeing has the more bullish chart, the stronger upside potential, and an option that is still really good here, where we're not having to worry about any time decay. With Tesoro, we got to think time decay a little bit more, given what those options are doing. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on. John will be with you on chat most of the day. I will be back on video here this morning at about 10 o'clock Mountain, 12 o'clock Eastern, unless something major happens. I'll be kind of going through my charts and different things. So if you do have questions, let me know. But we'll kind of manage it that way here today, and then as we head into Thursday and Friday, and I'll be kind of putting it in the message center later today. We'll have a little bit of a revised video schedule, but starting Thursday, we will start our classes on technical analysis, where we will basically go through the A, B's, and C's of technical analysis from the real basics and start building upon that. I'll show you some of the technical tricks that I've acquired over the years, and we'll kind of do that. Spend about 45 minutes each day doing that. As the trading is going to be a little bit lighter. But we'll do those. Those will obviously be recorded for those of you who won't be on board. But I wish you a great holiday, and I'll be back. But for those of you who are going to be heading off to family activities a little bit later today, be safe, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.